There's a reason 20 million World War II families could grow 40% of America's vegetables. And it wasn't just hard work. It was a set of seed-saving tricks that made them independent from seed companies entirely. These families saved tomato seeds using a fermentation method that takes 3 days and costs nothing. They saved bean seeds by simply leaving pods on the vine until they rattled. They saved squash seeds that stayed viable for 10 years. They knew exactly which plants to save from and which to avoid. They stored seeds in paper envelopes inside glass jars where they lasted for years. And they tested old seeds before planting, so nothing went to waste. This knowledge was common during the war. Every Victory Garden family knew it. But after the war ended, seed companies wanted you to buy new seeds every year. So these tricks were quietly forgotten. Not anymore. Tonight, I'm bringing back all 10-second World War seed-saving methods. Methods that still work perfectly 80 years later. Methods that can eliminate your seed costs permanently. A single $3 packet of tomato seeds can become a lifetime supply. One handful of beans can plant your garden forever. One squash can give you seeds that last a decade. Your great-grandparents knew these tricks. It's time you learned them too. Let's get into it. Number 1, the tomato fermentation method. The first trick is the tomato fermentation method, and it's probably the most important seed-saving technique ever developed. During World War II, Victory Garden families fermented their tomato seeds in kitchen windowsills across America. The method is simple, free, and produces seeds with better germination rates than anything you can buy in a store. Here's how it works. When you have a ripe tomato, cut it in half across the middle, not through the stem. Squeeze the seeds and the gel surrounding them into a small jar or cup. You don't need the flesh, just the seeds and that jelly-like coating around them. Add about the same amount of water as you have tomato pulp. Stir it up. Then set the jar aside in a warm spot out of direct sunlight for 3 to 5 days. Here's what happens during those days. The gel coating around tomato seeds contains chemicals that prevent germination. In nature, this keeps seeds from sprouting inside the tomato while it's still on the vine. Fermentation breaks down that gel coating. It also kills many seed-borne diseases that could infect next year's plants. You'll know fermentation is complete when you see a layer of mold forming on top of the liquid and the good seeds have sunk to the bottom. This looks unpleasant and smells worse. That's normal. That's actually what you want. Pour off the mold and liquid. The good seeds will stay at the bottom. Rinse them several times with clean water until they're completely clean. Now, spread the seeds in a single layer on a plate, paper towel, or screen. Let them dry completely for 1 to 2 weeks. They should be fully dry before storage, or they'll mold. Properly dried and stored, tomato seeds remain viable for 4 to 6 years. One tomato contains dozens of seeds. One plant produces dozens of tomatoes. Do the math. A single plant can supply your garden for decades. Victory Garden families did this every summer. It cost them nothing but a few minutes of time. It works exactly the same way today. Number 2, the dry-on-the-vine bean method. The second trick is the easiest seed-saving method that exists. The dry-on-the-vine bean method. If you can grow beans, you can save bean seeds. There's no processing required, no special equipment, no fermentation, just patience. Here's the entire process. Instead of picking all your beans for eating, leave some pods on the vine. Let them stay there as the season ends. Don't pick them when they're green and tender for eating. Leave them alone. Over the following weeks, the pods will turn from green to yellow to brown. They'll become dry and papery. The beans inside will harden. You'll know they're ready when the pods are completely brown and crispy. Pick one and shake it. If you hear the beans rattling inside like little stones, they're ready. Harvest the dry pods on a dry day. Moisture is the enemy of seed saving, so don't pick them after rain or when there's morning dew. Shell the beans from the pods. This is actually satisfying work. The pods crack open easily and the beans fall right out. Spread the beans in a single layer and let them dry further indoors for another 1 to 2 weeks. Even though they seem dry, there's often residual moisture that needs to escape. Once completely dry, store them in paper envelopes inside a glass jar in a cool, dark place. Bean seeds stay viable for 3 to 5 years when properly stored. But realistically, you'll be planting them every year anyway, so viability is rarely an issue. Here's what made this trick so valuable during the war. Beans are protein. Dried beans store for years as food, and the same beans you'd eat can also be planted. Victory Garden families would save a portion of their dried bean harvest for eating through winter, and reserve a portion for planting in spring. One handful of beans can plant an entire row. That row produces pounds of beans. Those beans supply both food and next year's seeds. It's a self-sustaining cycle that costs nothing after the first purchase. Every wartime family knew this. It's the foundation of seed independence. Number 3, the squash scoop and dry method. The third trick works for squash, pumpkins, cucumbers, and melons. The scoop and dry method. These are called wet-seeded crops because the seeds are embedded in moist flesh, but saving them is surprisingly simple. Here's the process. Let your squash or pumpkin ripen fully on the vine. For winter squash, this usually means leaving it until the first light frost threatens. The skin should be hard enough that your fingernail can't easily puncture it. When you're ready to eat the squash or pumpkin, cut it open and scoop out the seeds along with the stringy pulp surrounding them. Put everything in a bowl or colander. Rinse the seeds under running water, separating them from the pulp. Rub them between your hands to remove the strings and flesh. The seeds are slippery at first, but clean up easily. Spread the clean seeds in a single layer on a screen, paper plate, or paper towel. Put them somewhere with good air circulation out of direct sunlight. Let them dry completely for 1 to 2 weeks. Stir them occasionally so they dry evenly. When completely dry, they should snap rather than bend when you try to fold them. Store in paper envelopes inside glass jars. Squash seeds have the longest viability of almost any vegetable. Properly stored, they remain viable for 5 to 10 years, sometimes longer. Here's a critical warning that Victory Garden families learned through experience. Squash, pumpkins, cucumbers, and melons cross-pollinate easily with others in their family. If you grow a zucchini near a pumpkin, bees will carry pollen between them. The vegetables you harvest that year will look normal, but the seeds inside will be crosses. Plant those seeds next year, and you'll get strange hybrids, often inedible. The wartime solution was simple. Grow only one variety of each type, or separate different varieties by a significant distance, or hand-pollinate by transferring pollen yourself and covering the flowers. Despite this complication, squash seeds were prized during the war for their incredible longevity. Families could save seeds during a good year and have backup supplies for a decade. Number 4, the lettuce bolt and shake method. The fourth trick requires you to do something that feels wrong. Let your lettuce bolt. Bolting is when lettuce stops producing leaves and sends up a tall flower stalk instead. Most gardeners consider this a failure. The leaves turn bitter. The plant becomes useless for eating. But Victory Garden families saw bolting lettuce as an opportunity. Free seeds. Here's the process. When one of your lettuce plants starts to bolt, don't pull it out. Let it grow. The stalk will get taller and taller, sometimes reaching 4 or 5 feet. Small yellow flowers will appear at the top. Each of those tiny flowers will produce 15 to 25 seeds. One bolted lettuce plant can give you hundreds of seeds. After the flowers bloom, they'll develop into fluffy seed heads that look like small dandelions. When you see this fluff, the seeds are nearly ready. Wait until the seed heads are dry and brown. The fluff should detach easily when touched. The harvest method is beautifully simple. Hold a paper bag under the seed heads and shake. The seeds will fall into the bag. Or cut the entire stalk, turn it upside down inside a paper bag, and let it finish drying. Shake occasionally, and seeds will collect at the bottom of the bag. Clean the seeds by gently blowing away the fluff and chaff. The seeds themselves are tiny, dark, and pointed. Store in paper envelopes inside glass jars. Lettuce seeds remain viable for 3 to 5 years. Here's the Victory Garden wisdom about bolting. Don't let your best-eating lettuce bolt. Choose one plant specifically for seed saving. Ideally, one that was slow to bolt. If you always save seeds from the first plant to bolt, you're selecting for lettuce that bolts quickly. Within a few generations, all your lettuce will bolt early. Save seeds from plants that bolted last. This selects for heat resistance and long harvests. Over time, your saved seeds will be better adapted to your climate than anything you can buy. Number 5, the pepper full ripe method. The fifth trick is the pepper full ripe method, and it corrects a mistake most gardeners make. Green peppers are not ripe, they're immature, and their seeds are immature too. Think about what color peppers turn when you leave them on the plant. Green bell peppers turn red. Some varieties turn yellow, orange, or even purple. That final color, whatever it is for your variety, indicates full ripeness. Victory Garden families knew that seed saving requires fully ripe peppers. The seeds inside green peppers won't germinate reliably because they haven't finished developing. Here's the process. Let several peppers stay on the plant well past the eating stage. Let them ripen to their full color. Then let them stay even longer until they start to wrinkle slightly. The more mature the pepper, the more mature the seeds. Cut open the ripe pepper and look at the seeds. Fully mature seeds are cream-colored or tan, not white or pale green. They should be hard, not soft. Scrape the seeds from the core onto a plate or paper towel. Unlike tomatoes, pepper seeds don't need fermentation. They don't have that gel coating. Spread them in a single layer and let them dry for 1 to 2 weeks. Stir occasionally for even drying. When completely dry, they'll snap if you try to bend them. Store in paper envelopes inside glass jars. Pepper seeds remain viable for 2 to 4 years. Here's a bonus tip from wartime gardeners. Hot peppers and sweet peppers can cross-pollinate. If you're growing both, there's a chance your saved seeds will produce something unexpected next year. Your sweet peppers might have some heat. Your hot peppers might be milder. If variety purity matters to you, but many Victory Garden families didn't worry about this, a slightly spicy bell pepper was still perfectly edible. And in times of rationing, you ate what you grew. Number 6, the corn dry-on-stalk method. The sixth trick is essential for anyone growing open-pollinated corn. The dry-on-stalk method. During World War II, families grew dent corn, flint corn, and flour corn specifically because these varieties are perfect for seed saving. Sweet corn can be saved too, but the field corns were preferred because they also served as animal feed and could be ground into cornmeal. Here's the process. Unlike sweet corn, which you harvest young and tender, seed corn stays on the stalk until it's completely dry. Don't pick it when the kernels are soft and milky. Leave it alone. As the season ends, the husks will dry and turn brown. The kernels will harden. The cob will dry down on the stalk. Harvest after the first light frost when the husks are completely dry and papery. Pull back the husks but leave them attached. This creates a natural handle. Hang the ears in a dry, well-ventilated area with good air circulation. A covered porch, shed, or attic works well. Let them continue drying for several more weeks. The corn is ready for storage when the kernels are so hard you can barely dent them with your fingernail. Moisture content should be below 14%. If kernels are still soft or have any give, they need more drying time. Shell the kernels by twisting the cob while pressing with your thumbs. Or rub 2 ears together and the kernels will pop off. Store in paper bags, cloth sacks, or glass jars. Corn seeds remain viable for 2 to 3 years. Here's the critical Victory Garden warning about corn. Corn is wind-pollinated. The tassels on top produce pollen that blows to the silks on the ears. This means corn will cross-pollinate with any other corn within a mile or more. If your neighbor is growing a different variety, your saved seeds might be crosses. The ears you harvest this year look fine because they grew from your seeds, but the seeds inside received pollen from wherever it blew. The wartime solution was isolation by distance or isolation by time. Plant your corn so it releases pollen at a different time than neighboring fields. Or accept some crossing and select for the traits you want over time. Also, save seeds from many plants, ideally 50 to 100, not just your best ear. Corn needs genetic diversity to stay healthy across generations. Number 7, the biennial overwinter method. The 7th trick is more advanced, but was essential for Victory Garden families who wanted to save their own carrot, beet, and onion seeds. The biennial overwinter method. Some vegetables are biennials. They take 2 years to produce seeds. The first year, they grow the part you eat, the carrot root, the beet root, the onion bulb. The second year, if allowed to continue living, they send up flower stalks and produce seeds. This was common knowledge before World War II. Today, most gardeners never see a carrot flower because they pull the roots the first year and buy new seeds the next. Here's how Victory Garden families saved biennial seeds. For carrots and beets, grow them normally the first year. In late fall, before hard frost, dig up your best roots. The straightest, most uniform, most delicious ones. These are your seed stock. Cut the leafy tops to about 2 inches, but don't damage the crown, where new growth emerges. Store the roots in a root cellar, cold basement, or buried in sand in an unheated shed. They need cold but not freezing. 32 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal. In early spring, replant those roots. Yes, plant the whole carrot or beet back in the ground with the crown, just at soil level. The plants will sprout new tops and send up flower stalks. Carrots produce umbrella-shaped flower clusters called umbels. Beets produce tall spikes with clusters of small flowers. Let the flowers bloom, get pollinated, and develop seeds. When the seed heads turn brown and dry, cut them and collect the seeds. For onions, the process is similar. Grow onions from seed or sets the first year. In fall, harvest your best bulbs and store them cold over winter. Replant in spring. They'll send up round flower heads that produce black seeds when mature. The whole process takes 2 years. This requires planning, but once you master it, you never need to buy carrot, beet, or onion seeds again. Victory garden families staggered their seed production. They'd always have one crop growing for eating and another growing for seeds. It became a natural rhythm of the garden. Number 8, the paper envelope storage method. The 8th trick is about storage, because even perfectly saved seeds are worthless if they rot or lose viability in storage. Victory garden families used a simple, effective storage system that costs almost nothing. Paper envelopes inside glass jars. Here's the logic behind each component. Paper envelopes absorb residual moisture. Even when seeds feel completely dry, they often contain some remaining moisture. Paper wicks this away, preventing mold. Glass jars provide an airtight seal. Once seeds are completely dry, you want to keep them dry. Glass keeps out humidity from the surrounding air. It also keeps out insects and mice. The combination works perfectly. Paper inside glass, breathability for the seeds, protection from the environment. Here's the Victory Garden storage process. Once seeds are fully dry, place them in paper envelopes. You can use saved envelopes, make your own from scrap paper, or buy seed envelopes. Label each envelope with the variety name, the date harvested, and any notes about the parent plant. Add a desiccant to absorb any remaining moisture. Victory garden families use dry rice in a cloth pouch, powdered milk wrapped in tissue paper, or silica gel packets. Modern gardeners can reuse the silica packets from shoeboxes and electronics packaging. Place the labeled envelopes and desiccant inside a glass jar. Mason jars work perfectly. Seal the lid tightly. Store the jar in a cool, dark location. A basement, root cellar, or refrigerator is ideal. The general rule is that temperature plus humidity should equal less than 100, so a 60-degree room with 30% humidity is perfect. A 70-degree room with 40% humidity works too. Avoid storing seeds in hot attics, damp basements, or anywhere with temperature swings. Following this system, most vegetable seeds remain viable for years. Some, like squash and cucumber, can last a decade or more. Number 9, the best plant selection method. The 9th trick is about genetics, and it's what separates amateur seed savers from experts. Victory garden families didn't just save seeds from any plant. They carefully selected seeds from their best plants. This is called selection, and it's been practiced by farmers for thousands of years. Here's how it works. Early in the growing season, observe your plants carefully. Notice which ones germinate first, which ones grow strongest, which ones resist disease, which ones produce first, which ones produce most, which ones taste best. Mark these outstanding plants with a ribbon, stake, or tag. These are your seed plants. Don't harvest from them for eating. Reserve them entirely for seed production. At the same time, notice your worst plants. The weak ones, the diseased ones, the late ones, the poor producers. Remove these plants from the garden entirely. This is called roguing, and it's just as important as selection. When you save seeds only from your best plants and remove your worst, you're improving your variety. Each generation becomes better adapted to your specific garden, your climate, your soil, your growing conditions. Here's the Victory Garden wisdom about selection. Save from multiple plants, not just your single best one. Saving from only one plant, no matter how good, creates an inbreeding bottleneck. Your seeds lose genetic diversity and become weaker over time. The ideal is to save from at least 5 to 10 plants for self-pollinating crops like tomatoes, beans, peppers, and lettuce. For cross-pollinating crops like corn, squash, and beets, save from 20 to 50 plants or more. This maintains genetic diversity while still allowing you to select for desirable traits. Families who practiced selection during the war years developed their own locally adapted varieties. Tomatoes that ripened earlier in short-season climates, beans that tolerated their specific soil conditions, lettuce that resisted bolting in their summer heat, These family heirloom varieties became treasured possessions, passed down through generations like recipes or furniture. Number 1. The seed viability test method. The 10th trick solves a common problem. How do you know if old seeds are still good? Victory garden families tested their seeds before planting season. This prevented wasted garden space from duds and let them adjust their planting rates for older seeds. Here's the simple wet paper towel test. Take a paper towel and dampen it with water. Not dripping wet, just moist, fold it in half. Count out exactly 10 seeds from the batch you want to test. Place them on one half of the damp paper towel, spaced apart so they don't touch. Fold the other half of the paper towel over the seeds. You now have seeds sandwiched between layers of moist paper. Slide this into a plastic bag and seal it loosely. You want humidity, but also some air exchange. Leave the bag in a warm spot, 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Check the seeds after the normal germination time for that crop. For lettuce and beans, check at 7 days. For tomatoes and peppers, check at 10 to 14 days. For slower crops, wait longer. Count how many seeds have sprouted. If 7 out of 10 sprouted, you have 70% germination. If 9 out of 10 sprouted, 90%. Fresh, well-stored seeds should show 80 to 90% germination or higher. As seeds age, this rate declines. Here's how Victory Garden families use this information. If germination is above 70%, plant at normal rates. If germination is 50%, plant twice as many seeds and thin later. If germination is below 50%, consider getting fresh seeds for your main crop, but use the old seeds for a backup planting. Never throw away low germinating seeds. Even 20% germination means some will grow. Plant them thickly in a corner of the garden. Something is better than nothing, especially in hard times. The wartime families tested their seeds in late winter, typically February or March. This gave them time to plan, to trade with neighbors for varieties with poor germination, and to order replacement seeds if necessary before planting season arrived. So there you have it. 10-second World War seed-saving tricks that still give free seeds every year. The tomato fermentation method that breaks down germination inhibitors and kills disease. 3 days of patience for seeds that last 6 years. The dry-on-the-vine bean method, leave them until they rattle. Shell and store, the easiest seed-saving technique that exists. The squash, scoop, and dry method, rinse, dry, and store seeds that stay viable for a decade. The lettuce bolt and shake method, let one plant flower for hundreds of free seeds. The pepper full ripe method, wait for full color, save only mature seeds. The corn dry-on-stalk method, leave it until it's hard as stone, save from many plants. The biennial overwinter method, for carrots, beets, and onions. 2-year crops that require planning but reward you with complete independence. The paper envelope storage method, paper inside glass, cool, dark, and dry. The best plant selection method, save from your best, remove your worst, improve with every generation. The seed viability test method, 10 seeds on a wet paper towel. Now before you plant, 20 million. Victory Garden families used these exact tricks during World War II. They produced 40% of America's vegetables, while buying almost no seeds after their first year. The methods haven't changed because the biology hasn't changed. Seeds still ferment the same way. Beans still dry the same way. Squash seeds still last a decade when stored properly. What changed is that we forgot. After the war, convenience won. Seed companies marketed hybrids that don't grow true from saved seeds. Gardeners got out of the habit. The knowledge that sustained families for generations was lost in a single generation. But it's not gone. It's right here, and now you know it too. A $3 packet of heirloom tomato seeds can supply your garden forever. A handful of saved beans can feed your family for generations. One good squash can provide seeds for a decade. This is seed independence. This is food security. This is exactly what your great-grandparents knew and practiced. The only question is whether you'll start this season. Save one tomato. Let one lettuce bolt. Leave some beans on the vine. It doesn't have to be complicated. Start small. Learn by doing. In a few years, you'll wonder why you ever bought seeds at all.